Please be seated. Honorable members, we would like to welcome the team, the staff of the minister, and the various entities present. I know they are accountable to you as Parliament, but I welcome them for their debate today. I also would like to welcome the minister's guests who are in the gallery, who today are our guests. Maybe I need to share with you some housekeeping matters. As our guests, we indeed appreciate your presence. However, you are not supposed to partake in the debate. That means if there's something that's exciting that the minister is saying, you are not supposed to clap. If there's something that the minister is saying that's unnerving you, that doesn't sit well with you, you're also not supposed to be angry and scream. Yours is just to sit and appreciate, then maybe you can talk outside about it later. It is for the members to debate, but also I hope they are not going to point each other fingers in this debate. The Secretary will now read the first order of the day.
Debate on vote number 23, police, including vote number 20, Independent Police Investigative Directorate Appropriation Bill.
Ilungu elihloniphekile ungqongqoshe wezamaphoyisa uMnumzana uNhleko.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, the Deputy Minister of Police, Ms. Mahotso Magdalene Sochu, the MECs present, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Mr. Bjorkman, honorable members, management and members of the South African Police Service, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, the Civilian Secretariat for Police, and the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, esteemed guests in the gallery, fellow South Africans. A tree of knowledge and wisdom has fallen. Isitala Ndweme Ruth Mompadi, one of the leading lights and moral compass of our generation, passed on this week after serving the people of this country with distinction, honor, and selflessness. We, however, take solace in the fact that we will continue to derive inspiration from a life well lived, a life that taught us that the human soul is a balance between reason, spirit, and desire. Let me also honor the young learners from Northwest who are invited to this budget vote following their demonstration of interest in policing matters during one of our Marikana outreach programs. The three learners in the gallery are Kiela Bocha Tisani, Mbuso Lupondwana, and Itumeleng Morolong, who are accompanied by their teacher. They represent the future we want. I would also like to honor Mr. Alpheus Masemola from the ministry who retired this year after 33 years in the service. May he enjoy a less hectic life. We present this budget vote in the year in which we are celebrating 60 years of the Freedom Charter. For this reason, it is important to reflect and look back at the obligations of those men and women in relation to what this means in our present-day South Africa. The Freedom Charter mandated us as the security cluster to ensure that all shall be equal before the law. In this regard, the South African Police Service are to be helpers and protectors of our people. We may have differing views on the successes that we have registered in this sector. However, as South Africans, we should take comfort in the fact that our men and women in blue, alongside other law enforcement agencies, continue to make our country proud, as they have demonstrated in the recent xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, which in themselves are indicative of the amount of work we have to do in reversing the extent and levels of underdevelopment in our society. Not only were our security forces propelled by legal and institutional arrangements in dealing with this particular situation, but as human beings and fellow South Africans, they themselves are convinced that all of us are one people and belong to one humanity. It is our fervent wish that our members continue to do what our Constitution requires of them and that all people within our borders embrace the work of the police. All that we have stated above is against the backdrop of continued killings of police members, with 86 having lost their lives in the past financial year, and 35 on duty and 51 while off duty. This is an overall increase of close to 12% compared to the previous year. As societies, it is important to inculcate in ourselves that killing police is killing the nation. Equally, we are not oblivious or blind to police infractions against citizens that have been reported to IPID, infractions which are being dealt with and continue to be dealt with expeditiously. The African National Congress, in its Ready to Govern policy document, identified specific priorities defining the future perspective on policing in a democratic context, some of which are: policing shall be based on community support and participation. Police shall be accountable to society and the community it serves through democratically elected institutions. Policing shall be subject to public scrutiny and open debate. Allegations of police misconduct shall be dealt with by independent complaints and investigations mechanisms. The police service shall strive for high performance standards. These strategic priorities were submitted as final inputs on June 15, 1995 in drafting the current Constitution of the Republic. We have in the past year revisited these ideals and combined them with a mandate given to us by the National Development Plan to develop a framework that is aimed at revisiting our trajectory with a view to keep on transforming. In this regard, we have focused our efforts on strengthening the police and policing in generally in the country. This effort is also being mobilized on the basis of the publication of the White Paper on Safety and Security and the White Paper on Policing. This financial year marks 20 years since the promulgation of the South African Police Service Act. As we do with all legislation, we have to review it continually to make sure that it addresses our present-day challenges. Excuse me. In this regard, the White Paper on Policing is aimed at the review of the Act to make it relevant to modern-day challenges and operational requirements. It also seeks to align the South African Police Service Act with the provisions of the Constitution. The White Paper on Safety and Security emphasizes that an integrated approach to policing and will form the basis for our policy and legislative review process. We continue to aspire to the creation of a state where our people are free, safe, and able to raise their children in a stable society. In doing so, we're informed by our commitment to the creation of a just society and state. A state, according to Socrates, will exhibit 4 qualities of wisdom, courage, discipline, and justice. Our integrated approach to policing emphasizes the involvement of our communities in the fight against crime and corruption. This is a responsibility we all share with the police, being lead agents in this regard. That is why we have, in the current financial year, placed the bulk of our spending towards visible policing, which will receive just under 39 billion rands for this financial year. In the coming financial year, we will also be placing a stronger emphasis on the need to review specialized units that are dedicated to fighting specific forms of crime and specialized investigations. We have had the outcry of communities ravaged by drugs. Already the Family Violence and Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit has made great strides and continues to secure life convictions progressively. We place such an emphasis and review, taking into account that the commission of crime has become more specialized, advanced, and sophisticated. Therefore, our response should be a level higher than the criminals. Just under 16 billion rands has been committed to our detective services, which will witness a growth of about 5.8% in the medium term. This budget will also be supported by the increase in capital equipment aimed at improving the capital infrastructure and technological advancements, particularly in the forensic science and investigative functions. Our policing shall always be intelligence-led in the war against crime and corruption. It is for this reason that crime intelligence will also receive a 7.8% increase for its budget allocation in the medium term. We're also placing an emphasis on improving investigation capacity for crimes committed against children and the elderly. 840 million rands will be dedicated to this, with further increases expected in the outer years of the medium-term expenditure framework. The Civilian Secretariat for Police has been established as an independent entity with effect from the 1st of April 2015, so that it can effectively discharge its duty of civilian oversight over the police and inducing community activation. A transfer payment on the vote amounting to approximately 105 million rands has been provided to the Civilian Secretariat for Police, whose work on policy and legislative front is invaluable. The CSP contribute towards the NDP, envisaging that people living in South Africa should feel safe at home, at school, and at work, and enjoy an active community life free of fear. The plan promotes tackling the fundamental causes of crime through an integrated approach between state and non-state institutions, with active involvement from civil society. The Constitutional Court directed that we should enhance the independence of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations. And in this regard, we have commenced with the establishment of DPCI as an independent budget program. The new program will be introduced through the MTF process in June 2015. A task team has been established with a target for a new program by the 1st of April 2016. Alongside this process is the need to capacitate the DPCI by significantly ramping up investment in capital infrastructure, which involves the upgrading of information technology network and the creation of human capability to assist in the effective combating, investigation, and prevention of priority and transnational crimes and corruption. Tom Butler Bowden, in introducing Plato, states that, I quote, "Doing what is right is not a moral good to be traded in order to gain something or to be sacrificed when it has no apparent benefit. Rather, correct action is a necessity. One cannot live a good life without it," close quote. In this regard, the oversight role played by IPID cannot be overemphasized. Its role in conducting investigations and making recommendations on the conduct of the police is being enhanced through the establishment of the National Special Investigation Team, which will focus on the investigation of systemic corruption cases at national level. It remains our commitment that IPID conducts its investigations without fear, favor, or prejudice. It is only through such unquestionable professionalism and integrity that our people will have faith in the police and our institutions of oversight, such as the IPID and Civilian Secretariat for Police. Policy and legislative formulation plays a vital role in shaping the future of policing in our country. In this regard, a consultative forum chaired jointly by the Executive Director of IPID and the Secretary of Police as per the legislative requirements has been established, with a view to also recommend and advise the Minister on issues of policy and legislation. One of the milestones registered thus far is the National Critical Infrastructure Bill, a piece of legislation that seeks to repeal the National Key Points Act, Act 102 of 1980, which is currently with Cabinet. We are also amending the Firearms Control Act as a way of curbing the prevalence of gun culture and high levels of violence in our society. There are far too many guns circulating in our society. Honourable members, you would also be aware that the Private Security Industry Amendment Bill is in process. The bill is currently being considered for assent by the President. The Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, like many other institutions, is experiencing financial pressures due to a number of challenges and legal contestations from business. We have, however, reached a settlement on the new fees that are due to be implemented in the current financial year. In the current financial year, we will also be looking at the new funding model aimed at ensuring the financial sustainability of the authority. We will conduct research and benchmarks with other countries to look at best mechanisms and the recommendations of such a process, which will assist in crafting a way forward on the financial model to be followed. The authority has in the previous financial year completed a 3-year research project that was funded by the International Research and Development Center, namely promoting partnership for crime prevention between state and private security providers in Southern Africa. This study is comparative in nature and covers Botswana, Namibia, Swaziland, and South Africa. Around June 2015, the authority will be publishing the research output in the form of a monogram, and this will also be available online. The recommendations of the study will also enhance our approach and partnership in the fight against crime in the country. House Chair, this country has witnessed a spike in service delivery and/or community protests. Police resources were committed to 14,740 incidents, of which 12,451 were peaceful, and 2,289 turning violent. The fact of the matter is that these protests continue to strain the resources of the police. We are also mindful that citizens have a right to air grievances. However, society needs to understand that the solution to these protests do not lie with the police. They lie with the ability to exercise leadership and the effective address of service delivery issues and other developmental needs in our communities. In this regard, we urge all political parties of different persuasions to play a constructive role in stabilizing our communities. On the other hand, as the police, we will continue to play our role and duty in ensuring that the exercise of such rights, life, limb, and property are secured. In the year under review, we have crisscrossed the length and breadth of our country, listening and interacting with communities on issues of policing. Thus far, the police ministry, in a space of about 6 months, conducted more than 67 community outreach programs. This in itself demonstrates our commitment to our policy, which places policing at the center of community responsibility. We listened and intervened successfully in Guruman when children were being denied a chance for schooling. We did the same in Malamulele. We were there when we were required in Rhabo. We continue with the We Are One Humanity program that seeks to deal with the wrong psyche that has seen a neighbor turn against neighbor. And the fact of the matter is, we have a shared destiny. In the year under review, DPCI registered the following successes. Of the 3,959 commercial cases handled, 2,749 individuals arrested with a conviction rate of 97.1%, with 56 individuals for money laundering with 44 convictions. The cybercrime unit successfully saved Eskom and Gauteng 3.5 billion rands and 800 million rands respectively. 57 clandestine drug laboratories were dismantled, 324 held for drug-related crimes with 98 convictions, 436 held with 56 convictions for precious stones and/or metals, 192 arrested for endangered species with 68 convictions, 42 arrested for human trafficking with 2 convictions, 2,090 held for organized crime with 558 convictions. And through our visible policing division, we have ensured national security and territorial integrity of the Republic through 3,775 crime prevention and combating operations at ports of entry. Ladies and gentlemen, for South Africa to be safe, stable, and developmental, it requires that all of us must play a role on issues of policing and ensuring a safe and secure environment, taking into account that the quality of a nation arises from the combined attributes of its citizens. In this regard, we call for support of this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable Brookman.
Honorable House Chairperson, Minister of Police, Honorable Ntleko, Deputy Minister of Police, Honorable Sochu, members of the Cabinet, Deputy Ministers, MECs of the 9 provinces, honorable members, the accounting officers of SAPS, IPIT, Civilian Secretariat, and the Director of CIRA, Fellow South Africans, the Portfolio Committee on Police received briefings from the South African Police Service on the 2015-16 budget and annual performance plan on 15, 17, and 21 April 2015. Briefings were also received from the Independent Police Investigative Directorate on 23 April 2015 and the Civilian Secretariat for Police on 29 April 2015. The briefings were preceded by inputs from civil society, research institutions, and trade unions on 14 April 2015. The reports dealing with the three entities were adopted by the Portfolio Committee on 7 May 2015 and published in the ATC on 11 May 2015. In the findings and observations, the committee specifically focused on the importance of stable leadership and effective financial management in SAPS, IPID, the Civilian Secretariat. In the case of SAPS, 29 recommendations were made. In relation to IPID, 15, and in the case of the Civilian Secretariat, 20. I want to thank all members of the committee for their contributions during the process, and also the Deputy Minister of Police for her valuable contribution during the budget hearings. The recommendations support the Building Safer Communities vision in the National Development Plan, namely, and I quote, in 2030, people living in South Africa will feel safe at home, at school, and at work, and they enjoy a community life free of fear. Women walk freely in the streets and children play safely outside. The police service is well-resourced and professional, staffed by highly skilled officers who value their work, serve the community, safeguard lives and property without discrimination, protects the peaceful against violence, and respects the rights to equality and justice, close quote. The Portfolio Committee will monitor the responses and implementation plans of the three entities relating to the adopted resolutions. If the need arises, additional hearings will be scheduled during the parliamentary year to evaluate progress. The ANC recorded in the January 8 statement the following, and I quote, "We are now seeing a gradual but steady decline in serious crime. However, crime still remains a major social and economic challenge. Communities are urged to participate fully in the various community safety forums and work with the SAPS and other law enforcement agencies to fight crime. It's only by working together that we can eradicate crime from our communities and also hold the police accountable should they act outside the boundaries of law. We condemn in the strongest of terms the killing of law enforcement officers and urge communities to work with the police to eliminate the scourge. The ANC condemns the violent crimes against women, children, the elderly, and members of the LGBT community. These attacks are despicable and they must be stopped. The January 8 statement also highlights the role of civil society in ensuring safety in our communities, community education on laws, rights, and duties of South African citizens, and furthermore for responsible citizens to respect one another, our laws, public property, and authority of the state. Members of the community are also urged to participate in campaigns against all forms of violence and also to report to law enforcement agencies any knowledge regarding these attacks. The SAPS received a main appropriation of 76 billion for this financial year. The IPID, 234 million, and the Civilian Secretariat, 105 million. The police vote represents 11% of the national total budget, which is the second largest allocation to a single vote. We firmly believe that the National Commissioner and a management team should ensure that the allocated resources are distributed fairly across police stations countrywide, more especially to previously disadvantaged and less affluent areas. All citizens are entitled to receive the same level of service. Rural and high-crime areas should receive special attention. We welcome the commitment by the SAPS management to investigate and implement alternative methods of resource allocation and to improve access to police service points. Police stations are the backbone of the SAPS. If a station commander is ineffective and a station fails, it fails the community. The constant upskilling of station commanders is an essential prerequisite to ensure that junior members receive the necessary mentoring and relevant in-house training to become successful law enforcement officers. The committee resolved that the leadership of SAPS must be stabilized and that accountability should be increased at all levels of the organization. The integrity of the SAP leadership should be beyond reproach. The vetting around strategy, the new recruitment framework, and the establishment of the integrity unit could also have a positive effect to strengthen accountability and adherence to integrity-based values. One of the critical areas to be addressed over the medium term is the professionalization of the police. A police service that wants to be trusted by the community should be professional at all times. The draft white paper on police reflects in Chapter 3 on the necessary qualities for a police officer in the 21st century, namely a career professional, a loyal public servant, respectful and accepting of public values, accountability mechanisms, and policing systems. We welcome the following action steps tabled in the estimates of national expenditure to professionalize the police. Strengthen relations with the research and academic institutions on curriculum development, including the Police Code of Conduct in the department's disciplinary regulations, performance appraisals, streamlining the process to deal with disciplinary cases, launching the community-based recruitment and selection strategy. However, these action steps should form part of a broader, comprehensive implementation to professionalize the police. House Chairperson, the President of the Republic, President Zuma, made the following remark in the 2015 State of the Nation address, and I quote, "We have to continue working harder to fight crime and to create safer communities." House Chairperson, this effort is therefore not restricted to state institutions only. It involves the total community. The recent National Firearms Summit that was held in Parliament brought stakeholders, role players, and ordinary South Africans from SAFA to the Hunters Association to embark on a dialogue on the kind of society we wish to live in and enjoy in the context of gun control. All stakeholders agreed that all have a role to play in ensuring effective measures to regulate the ownership and distribution of guns and prevent and reduce the impact of gun violence on society. We once again want to call on all citizens to assist in removing illegal firearms from society. Let us work with the SAPs, CPFs, and community organizations in this important endeavor. The recent incidents of xenophobic violence again highlighted the importance of intelligence-led policing and an integrated approach to curb public violence. We welcome the establishment of liaison forums and cooperation centers for migrants in conjunction with CPFs, the assessment and management of illegal firearms in the hands of migrants, and to increase deployment to enhance visibility and response to incidents. Oversight over the police is entrenched in Section 206 and 208 of the Constitution of the Republic, and where provision is made respectively for the IPID and the Civilian Secretariat. We believe that the IPID, under the leadership of the Acting Executive Director, Mr. Gamayani, should take IPID services closer to the people, enhance integrity and quality of investigations, and reprioritize the fight against corruption and systemic corruption. The Civilian Secretariat, headed by the Acting Secretary, Ms. Niva Fourie, have an important role to play to improve the effectiveness of policing in South Africa through regular monitoring and evaluation of the performance of the SAPs, the promotion of crime prevention partnerships, and the hosting of dialogues on community safety and crime prevention could significantly contribute to the reduction of crime. Chairperson, we also want to pay tribute to those members of SAPs who died in the line of duty since the last budget vote. We want to extend our condolences to their loved ones and families. We honor their contribution in the fight against crime and to keep our community safe. In the recent weeks, we saw the brutal slaying of members in KZN and Gauteng. We believe that the SAPS management should also ensure that there is constant review of operational training and tactical doctrines in high-risk environments to maximize the safety of members. Finally, the ANC supports Budget Vote 23 for police, including the Civilian Secretariat, and Budget Vote 20 for the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Caller.
What do South Africans want and what do South Africans deserve? Two of the most vexing questions of the past 2 decades. There does, however, seem to be consensus that what we want and deserve are lasting peace and order, freedom we can use. From peace and order emanate all else, the right to safety, to live, to walk the streets, to work, in a society that encourages individual rights and freedoms, in a democracy that thrives. This is the vision of the Democratic Alliance for South Africa. To this end, the police are the most visible manifestation of government authority and are the ones tasked with bringing about peace and order. In a post-conflict society, this great nation of ours must exert a laser-like focus on the rule of law, and to that end, we need a standardized foundation from which to teach all police-related activities with accepted norms and standards drummed into every officer from constable to National Police Commissioner. We need and deserve, for our 73 billion rand, police who follow international best practice as naturally as they breathe and who are equipped mentally and physically and furnished with every item necessary to counter any and every new security threat. We need police who serve us, police who are committed to the rule of law, committed to policing ethics and accountable to the law and to us, the people they serve. We need police our citizens turn to rather than police citizens run from. Sadly, we have confused police whose bosses are hired by a compromised president to protect him at all costs. They in turn hire non-police who they give high ranks and fat salaries in exchange for protection from the media, politicians, and accountability. Beneath them is a rather threadbare, thin blue line of real police who strive to keep us safe and who believe in this ideal of preventing and detecting crime, but they are surrounded by police who are feared and who are frequently involved in criminal activities such as the poaching of one of the 1,215 rhino slaughtered this year while taking a salary to protect them, or accepting bribes on the border to allow contraband in or out. Progress is made towards democratic policing when there is a shift from a control-oriented to a more service-oriented approach. In our case, we started our democracy by turning it into a service away from the dreaded apartheid-era force, but then Honorable Bheki Cele saw fit to turn it into his personal army so that he could be a general wearing medals as fake as those on the chest of his successor. While his failed National Police days are still under investigation by the crumbling SIU, so she has failed spectacularly in ridding us of even one of the infamous 1,448 convicted murderers and others who are still working in the SAPS. That is what we have as a South African police service today. Arriving back at Acacia Park last night, 3 men armed with knives were ripping my neighbor's burglar bars off, easy to do out of a prefab, until he put on his lights and shouted at them. He called the police, but their vehicles had been withdrawn, so they had to walk to his assistance. Recently, a female MP walked into a man with knives at her throat, and others had all her appliances stolen. There's no help. My alarm was tested, but apparently it's now not linked to anything because the ministry or the National Police Commissioner cancelled the private security company and didn't tell anyone. We have no assistance at all. It's a microcosm of South Africa. Extreme politicization of the police has fueled cronyism and corruption and inevitably also eroded expertise, technical knowledge, and accountability, which has dropped to an all-time low. There is no single vision. The massively expensive review of the criminal justice system has fallen as flat as the tires on the thousands of SAPS vehicles languishing at garages as the NPC decided to take a tender into her own hands and the court disagrees. The CETA and Public Works failed time after time to complete even the simplest of tasks, so where we should have a smooth flow and easy access to chart arrest, trial, and incarceration, instead the technical integration of the CJS has failed, the e-docket system has collapsed, and the backlogs at the forensic labs are increasing. The firearm registry is equally in a catastrophic state. The current structure set itself up to fail. Station commanders want to be seen as successful in terms of having brought down crime, so I'm receiving endless reports that victims of crime are simply turned away and no case will be opened. The SAPs think it's fine to create their own crime statistics, which is the equivalent of a matriculant marking her own paper. So the only true statistic we can rely on is murder and perhaps attempted murder, both of which have risen over the past 2 years. Before this day is over, 47 of us will be dead. The world watched as our police bungled high-profile cases which the best and brightest manage to mangle, then lose in court, which makes me wonder why we passed the DNA legislation, which will add another level of complexity to their jobs. And equally, the world knows the president is now keeping the report on the Marikana massacre as tightly under his carpet as the speaker is keeping under hers the Minister of Police's report on how much he must pay back for his Nkandla palace we paid for. We all know teams of professionals are massaging those two reports till they'll be barely recognizable, but everyone knows the day the Marikana Commission report released, so too will be the National Police Commissioner. Now, she's already apparently been offered various other cushy jobs to slink off rather like the head of the Hawks did after he had the temerity to ask for the Nkandla files and was suspended for his troubles. But she's defiant to the end and says, Mr. President, you'll have to fire me. Well, Mr. President, please oblige her. We need a professional, real police officer at the helm, someone who's worked their way up the ranks from constable, not a failed teacher, not a recycled politician, not a twice-dumped social worker, an officer admired by the police, in a position all of them can aspire to achieve as they work their way through the ranks, earning their promotions rather than the current system of cronyism and nepotism with 21-year-olds bounced through the ranks because they're related to or sleeping with a bigwig in the province. To say that morale amongst the rank and file is at rock bottom is an understatement to say the least.
Honorable caller, can you please take a seat? Yes, your time won't be taken away.
Yes. No, I want to ask Chairperson.
Can please the
Sorry, my time
NA
is up.
table make sure that the time is not affected? Can please the watch on the member's time be corrected?
No, I
Honourable
just
member.
wanted to ask Chairperson, is it parliamentary for a member of parliament to repeat a same speech for the past 10 years?
Honorable
Just
member, that
change
is
the
not a
minutes.
point of order. Can you please take your seat? Honorable caller, can you proceed?
Thank you. Of course, I've been told the 3-year crisis in crime intelligence is coming to an end. However, the latest acting head did rather bravely and probably in a career-limiting move admit to the committee that she warned of the catastrophic xenophobic riots in KZN, but the police in that province just didn't react with the speed or numbers her warnings warranted. Of course they didn't. The provincial PC has other things on her mind as the IPID is busy investigating her at last for accepting payment for a plush 5-star 50th birthday party for her husband from none other than Toshin Pandey, business partner to the president's son, and the man who advocate Kerry Null will be grilling in court about the 60 million rand SAPS scam during the FIFA World Cup. The National Development Plan sees our SAPs as I want to see them, professional to the roots of their hair, equipped so they may outshoot, outdrive and outmaneuver members of criminal syndicates as honest as the day is long. Instead, we have members who are professionally bald, can't shoot and have no driver's licenses, so it doesn't matter, there are no vehicles to drive. We know the current minister was appointed for one reason and one reason only, to protect the president. There is clear evidence that most of the executive are hardwired to the presidential wrecking ball, and in the Ministry of Police, anyone who even thinks of mentioning Nkandla is immediately smashed into the future. I've written to the President requesting he immediately institute a judicial commission of inquiry into the complete mess that's gripped the police ministry for months. Will he grant my request? I doubt it. For our SAPS members to survive the rising tide of organized crime, they must be superbly professional, technically proficient, and with the highest integrity. But first of all, the Marikana report will prove a watershed moment. It will reveal exactly what our South African police service has become. Release it, Mr. President, release it today.
Honorable Ditwala. Order, honorable members, can we allow the speaker on the podium to be heard?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Minister, honorable members. The Economic Freedom Fighters objects to budget vote 2023, 2015-2016. How could you approve a budget when one person protesting is killed every 4 days by police? The department prioritized the training of 34,000 SAPS personnel in 2013-2014 financial year for firearm competency. This figure is not stated in the 2015-2016 financial year. Could this be read to mean that all police are now competent in firearm control? How could you approve a budget when civil claims against the police have shown an increase of 142% in the last 4 years since the 2010-2011 financial year? Last year, high-ranking police officers were arrested in connection with job recruitment scams. Perhaps the long overdue National Policing Board, as anticipated, may mitigate against the risk of recruitment fraud. The strategic plan states that the National Management Forum will be entrenched as the main decision-making body of the organization, supported by its relevant and recently established subcommittees. But there's no detail on how the proposed forum will interface with the muted Board of Commissioners. How could you approve such a budget? How could we approve this budget when illegal arrests cost the police at least 18.5 billion from civil litigation as a result of brutality and illegal arrests? The SAPS has developed an extensive and complicated recruitment network to ensure that right people are recruited into the service. The SAPS states in its 2015-2016 APP that to accelerate the recruitment process, the department has entered into a partnership with the South African Defence Force Skills Training Program to shorten the training program for graduates who acquire qualifications relevant to SAPS. Today, we are militarized, hierarchical, and ill-equipped to deal with ordinary crime. This development goes against the grain of demilitarizing the police. Current policy approaches to the problem of crime have largely abandoned any commitment to social crime prevention by the police, attempting to shift this responsibility instead to the social class of government. As a result, 227 children were murdered in South Africa in 2012-2013 financial year, which is more than two children a day. In the same year, 2,266 women were murdered, and 141,130 women were victims of attempted murder. How could we approve such a budget when police have been politicized, anti-corruption and investigative units alike? Black police officers experience extreme difficulties with regard to promotions and paid low wages, and the management of the police remains largely white. The consequence of this high-pressure job without decent living wages and support is evidenced by high levels of divorce among police workers. In more extreme cases, these feelings of isolation and despair lead to suicide. How could you approve a budget of the police without a chief financial officer? Investigative entities have acting heads as though the SAPS is an acting school. The Independent Police Directorate is not independent. Why should he approach a budget when all 4 of his programs were unable to spend their allocations for the 2014-2015 adequately? I thank you. The EFF cannot support vote budget 20 and 23.
Honorable Mngwango.
Honorable Chairperson, the IFP begrudgingly supports this budget because we know that it is important that services are continually delivered for the benefit of our people. However, I do want to raise some issues, Madam Chairperson. The instability within the South African Police Service leadership has truly become a crisis, if not an outright circus, as generals are too busy taking time out of work, either being on suspension or going to court instead of combating crime. Consequently, the police lower ranks do not have leadership at the operational level, which they so much need, and this is similar to the blind leading the blind. The number of these leaders out of commission is alarming. 1, General Mdluli, former crime intelligence boss, is on suspension with full pay. General Sbiya, who could be helping the Hawks deal with the drug scourge and other serious crimes, is busy in court and is at home. General Boysen, leader of the Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal, who has immense experience and has had an illustrious career in the police, won his court case but is still at home. General Lamour, provincial head of the Western Cape Subs, is busy with a court case and is also suspended. And recently, General Arnold Ramat had to resign after being suspended and being in and out of court. As for Mr. Robert McBride, the Executive Director of IPID, it is absolutely ridiculous that he was suspended before he even knew where his office was, let alone having received his first salary. This situation has dampened the morale in the service and brought chaos in leadership. There are no incentives, Honorable Minister, for most of the police officers, especially in the lower ranks, as they are not rewarded for their hard work through proper promotions. There are some officers who have been in their posts for years. I know of a sergeant who has been in that rank for the past 16 years, and yet some spokespersons or the other get promoted to the level of generals over these deserving officers. This has resulted in people leaving the police service who have invaluable experience. Honorable Minister, we need you to truthfully tell us the exact number of resignations, early retirements, as well as the amount of sick leave taken in the police service over the year under review. Dilapidated infrastructure is another aspect of SAPS that is in need of urgent attention. For instance, the holding cells being utilized for housing awaiting trial prisoners in Nongoma consists of structures built in 1906 during the Pambata Rebellion. A messy kitchen, have no access, toilet access, and are hugely overcrowded because it was actually built to accommodate 20 people. Even though it is not fit for human habitation, one finds sometimes hundreds of people in these cells. And I would actually like to extend an invitation to the minister to visit this area with me to see for yourself if it is true. There are no offices for the Crime Intelligence Unit in Nongoma, for instance. They are currently housed in a park house, which has been standing there for the last 30 years and is busy, falling apart, which they are now about to lose because of the fact that it is actually crumbling. Yet, they are responsible for many areas, including Tlabisa, Pongole, Makutu, Esbayeni. So the worst part is that these
Honorable
officers
Mngqangqa,
do not
your
even
time is
have
up.
their vehicles. I still have
Yes.
16 seconds.
You have got 16 seconds extra. Thank you very much, Honorable Mngqangqa.
Well, thank you so much.
Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Ministers present, Honorable members, members of the gallery. The South African Police Services received a main appropriation of 76.3 billion for the 2014-2015 financial year. In 2015-2016, the main appropriation increased normally by 3.8 billion, which is a real increase of 371.7 million or 0.51% compared to the 2014-2015 fiscal year. The main appropriation of the police vote will increase from 76.3 billion in 2015-2016 to an estimated 86.4 billion in 2017-2018 at an average annual rate of 6%. The SAPS indicated that the spending focus of the SAPS over the medium term will be on the following priorities: maintaining the personal capacity, professionalizing the police service through skills development, and we urge the Minister to encourage learners from grade 10 to be able to attract the right kind of skills into the policing department. Continue to strengthen the criminal justice system by means of the criminal justice sector revamp and modernization program and capital infrastructure. Since the SAPS has a very good record of spending its total budget for any given financial year, it can only be hoped that it will deliver on the above spending priorities and efficiently manage its budget allocation for the 2015-2016 fiscal year. It is also hoped that it will not record under expenditure and any irregular and fruitless expenditure at the end of the financial year. Given the fact there are good financial control systems notwithstanding the vacancy of the CFO in place at SAPS, there is a semblance of financial stability. The department's current budget allocation should be supported. More so, given the centrality and indispensable role of the department in the implementation of the NDP goals in general and ensuring that all South Africans feel and are safe in particular. The department needs all the financial support it can get for it to contribute meaningfully to the realization of the NDP goals. Nevertheless, what is concerning in the budget is that the border security sub-program under Visible Policing Program received the smallest allocation in the 2015-2016 financial year, with only 1.7 billion, which is 4.5% of the total program budget. The border security environment remains under-resourced despite several challenges identified in the past and more recently by the committee during its recent oversight visit to the Lebombo border post. Demilitarization and professionalization of the process, re-establishment of the special units such as the FCS and organized crime and anti-corruption units in particular, establishment of clear liaison and cooperation between the oversight structures, including the SAPS, Inspectorate Division, the Civilian Secretariat, and the IPI, directed on the architecture of police oversight. The implementation of Rural Safety Plan as an immediate priority, implementation of the anti-corruption measures, and the Central Firearms Registry. In light of all this, the National Freedom Party will support this budget. Thank you.
Honorable Mlewatsi.
Motlotlegi Musa Khotla, ditona le batlatsa ditona ba ba tlotlegang lefapha la sepodisi baeng ba rona maloko a tlotlegang a ntlo le halala eno le ba gaetsho botlhe ko gae ditlang ke le dumediseng. Honorable Konabanat, you don't cease to amaze me. Your eyes are so programmed that they only see wrong, nothing good. That is why you call police confused. The ANC declared this year the year of the Freedom Charter. The biggest threat to DPCI, commonly known as the Hawks, currently is ensuring leadership stability and striking balance between its independence whilst remaining a fundamental part of South African Police Service team. There are many examples of this. The most recent one that comes to mind is the seizure of gold worth 20 million rand in strategic raids involving the DPCI and crime intelligence. Other successes include last week, the Hawks arrested 10 suspects for possession of heroin worth 7 million. Also last week, the Hawks arrested 9 suspects for rhino poaching in Lephalale area. Last month, the Hawks arrested 6 bank robbers in Mpumalanga. What are you saying? Also last month, the Hawks arrested 7 suspects on charges of fraud and racketeering in DR. Also last month, the Hawks arrested 15 police members in the Eastern Cape for fraud and theft. I can go on and on and on. The ANC is also concerned about the isolated criminal elements within SAPS and agree they should not have the honor to wear the blue uniform. Isolated. Honorable Chairperson, let me remind Honorable Kolabanat that she is just a shadow minister of the DA. And there is a full minister of the police in this country. And his name is Honorable Nathi Nhleko. Let me repeat it. Honorable Nathi Nhleko. Don't confuse the two. This department is in his capable hands. Motlotlegi Musa Khotla, dikgolegelo tsa rona di tletse di a phuphuma. Mme ba golegwa ga ba itlisa ba tsamaya. Ba tshwere ke sepodisi sa rona. Gape go bona ra re mogala wa nko tshwara thata e se re utlwa sebodi wa kgaoga. The Crime Intelligence Division of the South African Police Service is without doubt the most crucial functionary of this SAPS. It is the only division with subs empowered to collect intelligence and as such forms the piece of crime fighting puzzle in South Africa. This administration priorities are to ensure crime intelligence-led police service. Working together with our men and women in blue, we can bring down the levels of crime. The Crime Intelligence Division has made massive strides over the past couple of years, but it is not out of the woods yet. We need strong leadership in the division, and not only leadership, the instability within the leadership of crime intelligence environment has been catastrophic for staff morale and service delivery. But as I said earlier, massive strides have been made. You see, Honorable Conor Barnett, you don't have to come here and sound like a scratch record. Richard Mutuli, the same people. The crime intelligence had deflected a potential explosive situation even before it starts. But in saying this, crime intelligence had received massive criticism in the past for being too reactive. I tend to share these concerns, but I am also optimistic that the division is already on track to become the early warning system, and that can and should be. The Crime Intelligence Division, Public Order Policing Unit, and DPCI are working collaboratively to defuse some of the most significant threats to internal stability of our country. The ANC would like to appreciate the extreme efforts made by these units in line with the NDP Section 12, where South Africans are and feel safe. In closing, Honorable Chairperson, I want to thank the men and women in blue who work tirelessly to protect us, the citizens of this country. And I want to urge them to talk about their trauma and not to bottle it up inside until it explodes. Tigers are allowed to cry. The ANC fully supports the South African Police Service budget to help bring the levels of crime down. Ons gaan voort. Re a tswelela. Siya qhoba. Ke a leboga.
Honorable Deputy Minister Sochu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Modula Stulo, ke tla qala ka ho dumedisa ditho tsa Palamente. Ke dumedise motlotlegi ya shebaneng le sa sepolesa, Ntate Nathi Nhleko. Ke dumedise mapolisa kaofela le a ba okametseng. Modula Stulo wa Portfolio Committee ke a o dumedisa le wena. Chairperson, today I rise up to support our government's theme and related programs for Africa Month, which is We Are Africa, opening the doors of learning and culture to promote peace and friendship. We are pleased to indicate to South Africans that the Ministry of Police and its department heeded the call by His Excellency, the President of South Africa, to go out to our communities for engaging and addressing our people to curb and to totally stop the attacks on foreign nationalists. One of the places we visited was the Alexander Township in Gauteng on the 25th of April 2015, where we urged our people to show solidarity with our fellow displaced Africans and to come up with a recommendation for government to effectively and efficiently reintegrate them back to their respective communities. And we also urge with our foreign nationalists to subject themselves to the laws of our country. During this imbizo, a recommendation was made by a young South African in Alexander. This young community member urged government to bring youth developmental opportunities closer to youth in the townships to enable them to compete equally with the foreign national business. The Department of Police, as part of broader government, and as such, it is also obliged to give ethos to youth and development in South Africa. In this instance, our department has established internship and learnership programs. For the financial year 2013-2014 and 2014-2015, the police had a total number of 1,190 intake of internships for unemployed graduates and needy matriculants. We can proudly announce that out of the number that I've just said, 61 interns were successfully absorbed as full-time employees of the Department of Police. We are also indebted to the Department of Higher Education and SACITA for collaborating with SAPS in the funding for this project. This project focuses primarily on learners who have completed Level 4 safety program from technical, vocational education, and training institutions. The project that I'm referring to is the project Safety in Society. That's the name of the project. This is a police-driven qualification which prepares the learners for a career in policing. In addition to the internship program, the department has, in this financial year 2014-2015, took a total of 375 unemployed learners, of which 250 were also successfully trained by an accredited training institution. They have acquired an NQF2 automotive maintenance and repair. Chairperson, the Ministry of Police has also specifically recommended to the department to approve an intake of 20 funded interns for the financial year 2015-2016. This came as a result of our visit to the firearms registry. These unemployed young matriculants and graduates will be placed at the firearm registry, liquor and second-hand goods control component to assist with the backlog collections and sorting all related applications. Well done, General Mbekela. With these programs, Chairperson, the Department of Police is supporting youth development in South Africa, a future that must continue to build a caring, sharing, and prosperous South Africa for a stable, safe, welcoming, and most of all, a law-abiding nation. Emphasis is made on the aspect of a nation of law-abiding citizens, precisely because maintenance of law and order should be a prerequisite to the enjoyment of all government's successful efforts in developing and empowering and prospering our youth, the future of this country. We are emphasizing on this because almost all the few perpetrators of foreign attacks and infrastructure vandalizing that happened last month and before that were mostly young people and minors. Our progressive constitution allows public protest and demonstrations, but this must be done within the confines of the law. Cheers. Chairperson, our police officers are always challenged to find ways to address public safety, as people must demonstrate or protest without detriment to democratic rights of other inhabitants. Our people must be encouraged to convey their grievances through their elected public representative. I'm talking about councillors, members of parliament, MECs, and the community-based organizations. This can only be achieved if there is a willingness from all three spheres of government to work together, integrated and coordinated. The President saw this dire need for integrated and coordinated work that he introduced two critical new departments within his office. The one is the Ministry of Planning, where its department was tasked to develop a long-term planning document so that government could accordingly align at all levels its policies. We are talking about the NDP. The other was the Ministry of Performance, Monitoring and Evaluation. In his own words, the president said, I quote, "The intention to establish these two departments was to move away from silos and parochial planning and look at our country as one holistic entity that should develop comprehensively in every corner. Together, we want to build a future of prosperity with freedom from want, disease, deprivation, illiteracy, landlessness, racism, xenophobia, homophobia, and all social ills and related intolerance," close quote. The Department of Police commits itself to this call by the President. That is why on the 11th of December 2014, the department launched its Frontline Service Delivery Project. This Frontline Service Delivery Project is a dedicated program aimed at improving the experience of all the communities in the country when they need services provided by the police at a station level. 9 police stations from 9 provinces have been identified for the pilot launch of this project: Philippi in the Western Cape, Wolmaranstad in Northwest, Tabazimbi in Limpopo, Hartswater in Northern Cape, Kopanong in the Free State, and Alexander in Gauteng, Amangwe in KwaZulu-Natal, Kabokweni in Mpumalanga, and Butterworth in the Eastern Cape. The program includes addressing the professional conduct of police officers, how they treat the public, ensuring that the police stations are accessible to the public, and that the first point of interaction between police and public is a positive one. National instructions are also circulated to all police stations in the country on police wearing their uniform, which includes wearing chest name tags, as we always receive complaints that people can't identify police easily because most of them hide the name tags. It is important to note that all police stations, including the identified 9 for pilot project Frontline Service Delivery, are located at local government level, a primary site for service delivery and related protest and demonstration. If service is deemed unsatisfactory by the citizens, as we know that the protesters, they are not protesting right out of nowhere. They all start at local governments, and therefore it is important that we work hand in hand with local government. And if we don't address the persistent criticisms against SAPS in particular, and government in general, then there could be a real danger that continuous criticisms may reduce and could destroy the effectiveness of law enforcement. We need public servants that are committed to deliver quality service to our citizens. It is with this reason that both the Minister of COGTA and Monitoring and Evaluation have come up with monitoring and intervention instrument back to basics in order for all government departments to serve our communities. Chairperson, we can assure the nation that these SAPS imbizos that we had were not just talk shops. These are the platforms where we receive not only complaints, but also very useful, pragmatic recommendations from public on how we as the SAPS can improve our mandate. The Department of Police has come up with a host of interdepartmental projects and programs, thanks to the advice received from public in our imbizos. One of those ideas that came, or proposal that came from the communities was in Mbizo in 2009, where the citizens begged the government to bring back the abolished Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit. Hence, they were then re-established in 2010 by the then Minister of Police. The South African Police Service is continuing on the success of this program, FCS, attained since its re-establishment. Not only is the Department of Police succeeding in inflicting maximum sentences on these heinous criminals who rape, molest, and murder our most vulnerable, that is women, children, people with disability, and the elderly. The department is also putting extra measures in improving the FCS on its mandate. Chairperson, the monitoring will promptly address challenges raised by the different provinces on the rollout of safety school programs, which has already seen a total of 16,169 schools linked to police stations countrywide since the national launch in 2011. The South African Police Service is planning to hold an interdepartmental meeting with Department of Basic Education and Public Works to address issues of boundaries and infrastructure for the police. Such taking of stock and accountability can only assist the Department of Police in securing confidence, respect, and trust of the South African public. No police can discharge on its mandate without the cooperation and confidence of the public, because it is the people who lay charges, it is the people who make statements, it is the people who testify in court, and it is the people who ultimately and inevitably assist the police in performing their duties. We agree that police officers must always ensure to use their given mandate with responsibility and sound judgment. At the time, we call upon our community to better understand the value of the police and the severe strenuous circumstances they work under. We need to understand that not all police officers are corrupt. Not all police officers are brutal. 99% of our police officers are very committed and very honest to the system. A lot of our police officers are always go beyond the call of duty to provide service to the citizens' expectations and at times surpassing the public's expectation. Therefore, we are not going to say that we have a bad system in place when we talk about the men and women in blue. 100% of them, they are actual good, because those that we discover that they don't belong to us, they belong outside the police, when they have committed criminal activities, you agree with us that we always deal with that. Therefore, we urge with you that you must support this budget.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. I will now call upon Egbare Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, wat is die taak van die polisie? Die taak van die polisie is om misdaad te bestry en die regering sê dat die mense van Suid-Afrika moet veilig voel en veilig wees. Met ander woorde, dit beteken dat die mense van Suid-Afrika moet vertroue hê in die polisie, dat hulle sal beskerm. Maar wat is die werklikheid? Die werklikheid is, as ons gaan kyk na die kommissarisse van polisie, en ons begin by Jackie Selebi, hy was die topkop soos daar gesê word, die man wat veronderstel was om misdaad te bestry word toe self 'n misdadiger. Die volgende kommissaris wat gekom het is Becky Cele. Hy is die man wat veronderstel is om te sorg dat misdaad bestry word. Hy word afgedank, want hy was betrokke by die onreëlmatige toekenning van R500 miljoen se tender. Met ander woorde is eintlik korrupsie. Dieselfde kommissaris kom, en hy sê die huidige kommissaris laat die polisie bloei. Met ander woorde, 'n senior politikus van die regerende party kom en sê eintlik vir die mense, moenie die kommissaris vertrou nie, want sy doen eintlik nie haar werk nie. Sy laat die polisie bloei. En ek het nie gehoor dat die ANC hom gerepedieer het nie, hy is nog 'n adjunkt minister. As ons gaan kyk in die media van topoffisiere, kom ons vat die provinsiale kommissaris in die Weskaap, generaal Lamour, en 3 top senior offisiere, wat nou tereg staan op 109 aanklagte. Hoe kan u dan verwag dat die publiek vertroue moet hê in die werk van die polisie, as die topamptenare hulle self skuldig maak aan wanpraktyke en strafregtelike oortredings? Ek wil vir julle sê, dit is nie net 'n ongunst teenoor die mense van Suid-Afrika nie. Dit is ook 'n onguns teenoor daardie goeie, hardwerkende manne en vroue in uniform wat bereid is om hulle lewe op te offer vir my en u veiligheid. En daar's 'n verantwoordelikheid, agbare minister, op u en die regering om te sorg dat die polisie skoongemaak word van die misdadigers. Want Suid-Afrika kan nie veilig wees as hulle steeds in die polisie is nie. Kom ons gaan byvoorbeeld na generaal Dramat. Hy is die hoof van die valke, die spesialis eenheid. Hy word afgedank. Hy word eintlik gesê, jy doen nie jou werk nie. Ons vat Robert McBride. Dit is nou die man wat in die hoof staan van Oopot, waar die publiek as hulle klagtes het teenoor die polisie, juis hulle na toe kan wend. Die Vryheidsfront Plus het gesê, jy moet nie vir McBride aanstel nie, want die hoof van Oopot moet 'n onbevlekte rekord hê. Hy moet 'n persoon van hoë integriteit wees. Maar u lewer 'n verslag in by die portefeulje komitee wat juis toon dat hy nie integriteit het nie. Dat hy 'n verslag eintlik gaan vervals om sommige mense te beskerm. U gaan hom nou afdank. Ons het u gewaarsku. Watter vertroue kan dit vir die publiek skep? En dan wil ek vir u sê, agbare minister, wat is die geval met Dramat?
Honourable member, round up.
Die verslag sê dat hy was eintlik betrokke en hy moes strafregtelik vervolg word. Dan sê ek vir u, verlaat hom dan strafregtelik vervolg, want u kan nie belastingbetalers se geld gebruik om hom 'n goue handdruk te gee en dan kan hy nie strafregtelik vervolg word nie, want dan misbruik u belastingbetalers geld om iemand te beskerm wat eintlik strafregtelik vervolg moet word. Ek dank u.
Dankie, achtbare Groenewald. I will now call upon Honorable L. Ramatlakan from the ANC.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Minister and Deputy Minister of Police and other ministers, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, and police management. Achtbare Groenewald. Hardloop jy nou weer weg, na jy die punte gemaak, wat seker bedoel dat die respecteer vir die oorledene persoon nie. Ons daarom beter moet verwag van u. Ons moet verwag dat jy iets gaan respecteer wees van die oorledene as jy praat op je platform. Ons moet verwag dat u at least ondersteuning gee vir die polisie. Nie altyd hier kom staan en heel, omdat je zei ook dat die politie doen niet, dat die politie doet. Wat doen u? Wat doen u die gemeenschap wat je ondersteunt? Ik los het voor jou, voor Anna Deje. I rise, Chairperson, to confirm right from the start that the ANC support the police budget. We do so because we are responsible government of the ANC. We do so because we understand the police, men and women that are doing an important constitutional work, that are doing the very important work of protecting our hard-won freedom, that they are protecting our society in general. We thank them dearly for this task. Cabinet adopted a white paper and adopted a national crime prevention strategy, amongst others, sets target for the police to at least reach between 7 and 10% of crime each year in the provinces, adopted the national NDP as a government strategic framework that be able to help the police to attain the 2030 vision. It reaffirms that the police needs to serve as part of integrated criminal justice system that is community-centric. These directives necessitate that the police plans and strategies should be aligned to the NDP in words and in action. The ANC 53 National Congress resolution resolved on a single police service that will integrate all police agencies under one command and control under the police, inclusive of municipal police, and this is constitutional. There's nothing wrong with it. The recent attack on foreign nationalists stand condemned in the strongest term possible. Our government demonstrated beyond shadow of doubt that we are African, we belong together. Chairperson, the visible policing program received 50% of police budget. During the engagement with the management, we expressed our unhappiness regarding the lowering of target, particularly on the key program such as this one. The visible policing program needs further attention, especially the low targets that depends on police action. When we look at them, confiscation of drugs at 2%, or the target as stipulated 3%. We agreed with the management that they will look at it and come back and brief the committee later. The visible policing is the combating crime through anti-crime operation, activities at police station, and maintaining high visibility and availability of police officers at the grassroots level. With the challenge of social conflict in community, social crime prevention, which is a crime affecting a social fabric of society, including crime against women and children, form part of this plan. To improve visible policing, in 2003, sector policing was introduced as an initiative to bring the police closer to the people. There is, however, lack of understanding as what the sector policing is. The biggest concern, Minister, is whether the sector policing will find itself inside the mainstream of the policing or remain as an add-on. Community-centered policing is a fundamental to the democratic society. The principle of community policing through the policing forum and trying to bring police closer to the people and attempting to mobilize community to prioritize the neighborhood. However, we are still faced with a serious challenge as a state and society to significantly reduce the crime and make the South Africa better safe for all. The level of crime and gangsterism undermine our South African democracy, is killing the moral fabric of our society. Police cannot do their work without effectively without the trust and confidence within the community they serve. Engaging community as partner need a fundamental shift in the overall approach in policing towards more community-oriented model. To achieve this community-oriented vision and
Honourable
policing,
Member, round up.
for subs to be community centers, there is 5 elements that community policing will be effective. 1, enhancing participation. 2, re-engineering operation. 3, restructuring organizational hierarchy. 4, managing a human resource. 5, adopting the problem-solving policing. In line with the NDP, strong criminal justice system and require cooperation in all sector and social cluster department, make police professional, demilitarize, increase rehabilitation for prisoners, build the safe using the integrated approach, and increasing the community participation to safety. And of course, resourcing the program continuously. As an ANC, we support this vote of the police with 76 billion budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable L. Ramatlakane. I will now call upon Honorable K.R.J. Mishwe from the ACDP.
Thank you, Chairperson. The National Development Plan envisioned that by 2010, South Africans would feel safe everywhere, especially in their homes and schools, and would enjoy life in their communities without fear of criminals. Unfortunately, that is presently not the case, as violent crimes continue to rise despite more money being budgeted annually to fight it. Among the reasons for increasing crime levels are systemic corruption in the police and bungling of criminal cases. The current corruption case of suspended Western Cape Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Arnaud Lamour and 3 of his senior officers who are reportedly facing a total of 109 charges ranging from corruption to money laundering is a case in point. Could this be one of the reasons why gangsterism and drug trafficking cannot be curbed in this province? Chairperson, we thought that the days of top police officers becoming friends with drug dealers and people of questionable character were gone with the former National Police Commissioner, Jege Selebe, but we were wrong. It seems like some of our top cops have decided to make criminals their buddies. Drugs such as stick and nyaupe are destroying our young people, including children under the age of 10. Families are ripped apart by desperate kids who steal everything they can lay their hands on to buy drugs. Parents are crying for help, and some community members are tempted to take the law into their own hands to rid themselves of the young drug addicts in their midst, because the police seem to be failing to rid their communities of illicit drugs. Where should desperate families go to for help? Even the current national commissioner has accusing fingers pointing at her. She is accused of defeating the ends of justice, misconduct, and other charges that could possibly lead to a suspension. When can our nation expect to have a police service that is led by honest, diligent, experienced, and exemplary leaders with impeccable integrity and who inspire confidence? Lifestyle audits have to be conducted on police officers who are living lavish lives, such as those who can afford to buy 3 brand new cars in 2 weeks, and those who pay off their multi-million rent bonds within a few months. Who is financing them, if not drug dealers or other criminal elements who are destroying the future of our children? Chairperson, the ACDP is totally opposed to the decision to downgrade the minimum standard of qualifications required for provincial heads of intelligence to where only a matric would be needed. We know that most matriculants don't gain university entrance without bridging courses. Why do police management think that lowering qualifications would improve the standard of policing? The ACDP believes it is wrong to also overlook whites, coloreds, and Indians for a promotion because of equity considerations. It is disgraceful that a Durban police captain, Mr. Kamalanathan Govender, who was overlooked for a promotion for 10 years, had to go to the labor court to get relief because of discrimination within the service. The ACDP is of the opinion that protecting our people from criminals, making our streets safer, and eradicating corruption and drug trafficking should take precedence over affirmative action targets in the police. All experienced police officers, regardless of the color of their skin, should be brought on board to fight crime in our country.
Honourable Member Rounder.
Crime knows no color. All those who qualify for promotion should be promoted so that they can do the job they were trained to do. For the sake of peace-loving South Africans who are living in fear, the ACDP appeals to the Minister of Police to stop the attempts to downgrade the current minimum qualifications required for provincial heads of intelligence, but rather hire and pay those with the best qualifications better salaries to prevent them from being poached by
Honourable Member, your
better-paying
time has
employees.
expired. Thank you, Honourable Member Mishwe. I will now call upon Honourable Member MP Mola.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister of Police, Honourable Members of Parliament, officials of the department, our guests, ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonan. As South Africa is ushered into the 3rd decade in the democratic dispensation, we can confirm unapologetically that the ruling party, the African National Congress, adopted progressive policies that ensure growth and a realization of a developmental state agenda. We steadfastly salute the visionary leadership of both our fallen and living stalwarts of the caliber of Make Ruth Mompati, whom 60 years ago adopted and fought for the implementation of the Freedom Charter. We are committed to ushering a South African wherein security and comfort will be the order of the day. Honourable Chairperson, the ANC government is committed in building an environment where all the people in South Africa are and feel safe. It is committed to fight against crime and corruption and to build cohesive, caring and sustainable communities. You will agree that the above requires a visible, a vibrant, a well-resourced and a professionalized police service, and this caliber of police service requires a strong civilian secretariat of police, will among others, provide a strong, sustainable civilian oversight over the police, build strategic partnerships in the fight against crime, strengthen the national dialogue and relationship on safety and crime prevention, initiate policy-driven legislation on policing and security matters, and support the executive. Honourable Chairperson, we believe that the above mandate will be well executed because as of the 1st of April 2015, the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service became a fully designated department. However, it is concerning that since 2012 to date, the Secretariat still depends on subs on various operational services. The Secretariat has to fast-track the process of acquiring its own visual private network. In the current financial year, the Secretariat has to improve performance in the following areas. The implementation of the provisions of the Civilian Secretariat for Police Act, and also speed up the processing policies and legislation, especially the White Paper on Police and the review of SARS Act, and we acknowledge that these are massive projects. The Secretariat must comply and convene the statutory meetings of the consultative forum between the Secretariat and IPID as part of its oversight responsibilities. The Secretariat have to develop policies that incorporate the work of the IPID and the Police Inspectorate. The Secretariat must strengthen civilian oversight over police service through establishing and accessing the existing community policing forums using standardized community police forum guidelines. The civilian oversight of the police service needs to be strengthened. In this regard, the establishment and assessment of community police forums and guideline standardization will enhance this oversight function. The Secretariat must ensure that this target is achieved. The professionalization of SARS as envisaged by the National Development Plan in parades remains out of the important responsibilities which the Secretariat must assist the SARS to achieve. In the 2015-2016 financial year, the Secretariat has an allocation of 105.1 million, which will be increased by 9% over the medium-term expenditure framework period. We believe that the Secretariat budget is inadequate to fully perform its mandate, but the under-expenditure patterns are noted and are seriously concerning. It is important that the Secretariat implement a strategy to address the patterns of under-expenditure. The state has a mandate to address the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The high vacancy rate noted is deterrent, therefore, the Secretariat must fill vacant posts. Honorable Chairperson, the importance of the mandate of the Civilian Secretariat cannot be overly emphasized. Strengthen civilian oversight, integrated approach to crime prevention partnerships, and coordination of the different units of South African Police Service at all levels of the organization is crucial for improved service delivery. The efficient usage of the allocation budget will indeed respond to the above-mentioned areas of focus. Honorable Chairperson, Siyakuba. Together we are moving South Africa forward. The INC supports the budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Mola. I will now call upon Honorable Member Z.N. Mbele from DA.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo, ngibingelela ungqongqoshe nosekela ngqongqoshe, amalunga ekomiti nabahlonishwa kulendlu. Chairperson, I need to start by just saying that those 9 suspects arrested for rhino poaching that were mentioned by Honorable Molebasi, as welcome as that achievement is, those 9 suspects only represent 4% of the offenders who even stand a chance of ever getting caught for that offense. So the fact is there is much room for improvements, and that is the basis upon which the opposition comes and holds you accountable as the government. And speaking of broken...
You may proceed. I'm talking to the House.
Speaking of broken records, kunini sizwe from this side of the House, nge good story yenu. Kunini sizwe ukuthi niyaqhuba. Which I suppose is true when you realize that the only thing eniqhubayo is corruption and load shedding. So our country is marking 21 years of democracy this year, and like most 21-year-olds, it stands at a fork in the road. Since 1994, a decent foundation has been laid, one shaped by our constitution and buttressed by a strong and independent judiciary. One which makes precedent-setting rulings, such as the recent one this week, declaring the forceful removal of MPs from Parliament to be unconstitutional, an issue championed by the DA. So, Nkalanisi, thank you, DA. But Chairperson, the consolidation and maturation of our democracy depends on the strengthening and the preservation of the integrity of independent state institutions that acts as a check against power abuse and which ensure accountability for misconduct or criminality, especially by those who are powerful or occupy high office. The principle of accountability is important because it goes to the heart of building a fair society. It is not fair when those who are legally empowered to exercise force in order to keep us safe from criminals instead abuse that power to act as criminals themselves. It is not fair when those who do wrong escape the consequences because they are powerful or connected. It is not fair when those who do the right thing are attacked because their actions threaten the interests of the powerful or connected. This is why the IPID is important as a police watchdog. We are pleased that our concerns about vacancies in senior posts and underspending in the departments are being steadily addressed. The vacancy rate has decreased in the past year. Partnerships are being pursued with universities to facilitate graduate recruitments, and monthly monitoring meetings have been instituted to mitigate underspending. The creation of the National Specialized Intervention Team is a welcome development insofar as it advances the IPID's identified priority to tackle systemic corruption. However, we must warn that this should not detract from the ongoing need for training and capacity building of investigators. In particular, the implementation of the IPID expansion strategy cannot be allowed to stall. Even though the IPID directly investigates many more cases than its predecessor did, its human capacity at less than 400 posts, far below the 535 posts that were determined to be ideal for the then ICD, which had a narrower mandate. The undue pressure placed on these constrained human resources who have to deal with a heavy workload is unfair and compromises the quality of its work. The DA will continue to advocate for the IPID to receive the budgetary allocations and funding increases it needs to implement its expansion strategy, regardless of broader budget-cutting imperatives. Chairperson, the IPID is on the road to recovery from the critical condition of systemic stagnation it was in since its shaky starts. But a new threat has recently emerged. The suspension and impending disciplinary process against Mr. McBride is the latest in a sequence of events that bear a heavy political fingerprint, and they raise deep suspicions that this has become another flank in the
Honourable
ongoing
Member, round up.
drive for state capture in order to protect the well-connected. We are watching developments very closely in this regard. We have not forgotten the big picture, and I would like the Minister to take heed of this message. It matters as much what is done as it matters what is seen to be done. In recent years, we've seen attacks before the Scorpions, the NPA, SARS, and the Hawks, and now it seems the guns have
Honourable
turned
Member,
on
your
the
time
IPID.
has expired.
This takes us away from the goal of building
Order.
a fair and just society.
Order.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Mbele. I will now call upon Honourable J.J. Make from the ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It's always fascinating in our portfolio committee meetings. Honorable Kola Barnard always calls Honorable Mbele her deputy, not her colleague. I always feel pity for him. Honorable Chairperson, my Minister and Deputy Minister, honorable members, as the African National Congress, we don't do things haphazardly. We go to conferences and come up with policies that must be implemented. The resolutions of the ANC Asset Mangaung Conference reiterated that South Africa must have a single police service. The resolutions also recognizes the fact that the conditions of service in subs are not satisfactory and need attention at the lower levels. It goes further and says that the National Commissioner should ensure the implementation of general training, operational and discipline standards in relation to policing to foster synergy, uniformity and consistency throughout the Republic. The conference also noted that the transformation of the Security Department has in the main been hampered by the middle management that continues to resist change and targets progressive personnel for dismissal, and therefore the tools of transformation and employment equity should be directed at transforming the middle management of security services. The NDP also, one of the documents from which the department derives its mandate, states that we fall asleep without fear and listen to the rain on the roof, ensure that all people live safely with an independent and fair criminal justice, close quotes. Honorable Chairperson, having said all of the above as identified by my organization, which by the way is the ruling party in this country, and which represent the majority of our people in this country, the opposition need to be reminded that as they are also South African citizens, we also serve their interest, whether they like it or not. The first line of defense for our communities is our men and women in blue. They are an institution that everyone runs to when they are in serious trouble, including the opposition themselves. We, however, need a changing of mindset within our new policemen and women. We need patriotism from our new police person. We need a police that will respect our citizenry, a different police person from the previous apartheid police state, which was for the protection of one section of the population and the suppression of the majority. We are therefore supposed to be in agreement when it comes to the safety and security of our country. No grandstanding when it comes to the security and protection of the lives of our citizens and their property. If a question was to be asked in this House today and now, directed at the opposition, who of you would like to be a policeman or woman? Surely none of them would respond in the positive. If we ask ourselves this question, it will make us understand what being a policeman or woman really is. Our men and women in blue are the first line of defense, and we therefore must acknowledge this and be proud of them. They get killed in the line of duty trying to protect us and make us feel safe. As a society, we need to protect our protectors. The killing of our police, therefore, need to have a different type of punishment. Maybe we need a statutory minimum sentence if a person is found guilty of killing a police. Maybe a different type of prison. Maybe a firm prison with no privileges in prison. In the same breath, police persons who commit crime must be treated in a different way from common criminals. The secretariats must take note of this in dealing with the white paper on police currently before them. We must not be like the apartheid era when the whites would be happy to be protected by black policemen, but at the same time not prepared to live, eat, sleep with them. They were not even prepared to share the same type of uniform with them. The opposition must therefore not criticize, but coming up with constructive measures to solve the problem. What a funny bunch of honorable members we have in these opposition parties. Honorable Chairperson, crime impacts negatively on the country's socio-economic development and therefore undermines people's well-being and their ability to achieve full potential. This therefore means that the capacity of the developmental state requires immediate enhancement on areas of forensic detective investigation and prosecution services to reduce the high level of crime and corruption. Honorable Chairperson, before my time is finished, let's try and see what Honorable Kola Barnard said. She started by the vision of the DA for South Africa. And when I was listening, there's nothing different from what the ANC says. I would rather say it's plagiarism. And if you listen to her talking, you would think that you would wonder from which country or planet does she come from? Surely not South Africa. To Honorable Twala, who said they don't approve of the budget. What happens if you don't, what are you telling us if you say you don't approve the budget? How is there service delivery if you don't approve the budget? What are you actually saying? Are you saying there mustn't be money for service delivery? I think you need to check on that one. Honorable Groenewald said the police are not doing anything. If we can say, we have just said that the Hawks have arrested the highest police person in this province and some brigadiers. What do you call that? Honorable Mishwe.
Honorable Member, round up.
Let me round up with Honorable Mishwe. The metric cut off, if you had gone through the whole, what it says is that we must also take experience into consideration. That's why it ends up only at metric. So you need to peruse exactly what that is being said. And I should think, the last thing that I would say is that the ANC, the African National Congress, definitely supports the budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member J.J. Make. I will now call upon the Honorable Minister of Police.
No, Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much, honorable members, and thanks very much for the debate, contributions, suggestions, and support subsequently for this budget vote. The Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee raised very important points in regard to the issue of the centrality of community involvement in ensuring a safe and secure environment in our society. And that's extremely important. Equally, the concern also shared, I think, right across the political divide in this House on the issue of the police killings. Because I think we need to take stock of our experience around ourselves, honorable members. The only thing that we have in our society, there are just simply two things. One is ourselves. Secondly, the South African Police Service, insofar as issues of security are concerned and so on. Now, and therefore we need to be measured, Ms. Kola. You know, I think I don't mind, for instance, you can say anything against me, and debate with me, and spare with me, and so forth. It's all right, I don't have a problem with that. But I have a significant problem when you're beginning to question the integrity of professionals in the South African Police Service. And people who can't stand here themselves and answer for themselves. Because I think that's very denigrating in a sense. So in in a way, I think we need to be quite measured because those are the same people that we also require for stability in our society. Ne? So it's hypocritical on the one hand to stand here and say to a professional who has undergone, quite a stretch of a period in training, first and foremost, but also in practice on the one hand, and just rubbish that person, him or her, in one form or the other, and yet these are the same people that this society and this country exists precisely because they are there in securing it and so forth. So we need to be quite measured, and this is just simply an appeal, not only in relation to what Ms. Kola said, but basically even from other members in the House who have raised certain issues regarding the police. Secondly, in the fight for liberation, centrally we have said this thing. We've said we're creating a humane society. And we said in the process of the creation of the humane society, the fundamental principles shall always be the issue of accountability and transparency. When we come to that, what do we hear? We then get told, oh, there are political sort of hallmarks in the actions that are being taken. Why? Because we're now extremely terrified and scared to confront the issue of accountability and transparency in our society, Mr. Mbele. We're extremely terrified, and I do not know why. So all we can do is to allege all sorts of political conspiracies when it comes to that. And I think if we're not careful, South Africa is becoming a very funny country. Outside this chamber, I'll tell you another interesting story. And this story is known by South Africans right across. One of them, somebody woke up one day and told us what he and somebody else did somewhere. And he works for a particular organization. The following day, that organization says, no, look, we have brought then the image of this organization into disrepute and so forth and so on. The day thereafter, the same person then told all of us as South Africans, no, it's because there's a political conspiracy. But we have admitted that you did wrong. On the one hand, when you are taken through task to account, you allege political conspiracy and so forth. And I think we should desist from such things, because those things are not to the benefit of our society. I must also say that the question of illegal firearms in our society is an extremely serious matter. But I think we should not fool ourselves and think that we're dealing with the question of illegal firearms in our society. Even when it comes to the legalized ones, for that matter. There are serious loopholes at some point, I think, when this society begins, and even this chamber subsequently begins to debate this particular, you'll see that we have serious loopholes, for an example, which span all the way back since the Anglo-Boer War, the 1902 Vereeniging Treaty, and so on, and how those things have been carried over and over to this particular point. And therefore, some of those are particular loopholes that, in a sense, if we're not careful, they will get exacerbated and contribute to the question of instability in our society. Now, whilst I'm talking about instability, I remember 1906, when the police station Wanongom was last refurbished and so forth. Of course, it's a serious concern. I agree. I accept that. But let me also remind you, you formed the government at some point. Was it 75 or 76 and so on? And Nongom is your hometown. Eh? Now, but you did nothing also about it. So I'm just saying, let us be balanced about it and so on. So I'm just saying it's quite an important thing, but that talks to broader than just the issue of the police station Wanongom and so on. It talks to the issue of resource allocation as well, which I think is a fundamental point that we need to look into. How do we deal with the question of the disadvantaged areas, the underdeveloped areas, and rural areas in particular, insofar as issues of policing infrastructure is concerned and so forth. Lastly, Mrs. Barnard, which, by the way, let me also just say, for the first time, I think you made a serious attempt sorry, Ms. Kola. The Honorable Kola.
Chairperson. Just once, could you ask the minister just once to call me Honorable Kolobana? That's my name. Just once. It's not a difficult name. It's really not a hard name to say. I know he's battling with it, but maybe he could just make one attempt to get it
Order,
right.
Honorable Member. Actually, you were not recognized.
Okay. No,
Honorable Minister, you may proceed.
No, I really apologize to Honorable Ms. Kola Banat. Now, Honorable Kola Banat, let me just congratulate you in making what I think, thus far, is a serious attempt in debating the issues, at least for the first time. Now, because there are critical points that I must recognize that you also raised. But to call you the police confused, to call our police confused.
Honorable Member, round up.
That's part of the denigrating effort and so forth. To call our police that they should not be collecting statistics. What do you do with Honorable Mbele who walks into a police station and reports a rape case? You shouldn't record that. So it can't. Around the issues of Marikana report and Inkandla and so forth, those matters are matters of public record. They've been clarified in terms of when they would actually be here. So there's nobody who's sitting on anything. And that's extremely important to take note of. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Police. Honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of this extended public committee has come to an end.